You prayed about it. You gave it to God. You reminded yourself of the truth. And your brain went right back to the worst case anyway. Not once, every time. And somewhere in the quiet you've wondered, is this a faith problem? Am I not trusting enough? Am I not surrendered enough? Here's what I need you to hear before anything else. Your brain is not failing your faith. It is doing exactly what it was trained to do, and training, the right kind, applied in the right direction, can be changed. Today we need to talk about how. Your brain has one primary job, and it is not to make you peaceful or spiritually aligned or emotionally available. Its primary job is to keep you alive, and in service of that job, it runs a continuous background process that neuroscientists call the negativity bias, a hardwired tendency to weight negative information more heavily than positive, to scan for potential threats, and to predict the future based on the worst outcomes it has previously encountered. This is not a malfunction. It is a feature. For most of human history, the brain that expected the worst and prepared for it was the brain that survived. But here's the problem. That ancient survival system is now running in a world it was never designed for. The same neural mechanism that once protected your ancestors from real physical danger is now generating anxiety about unanswered messages, worst-case interpretations of a tone of voice, and 3 a.m. spiral thoughts about conversations that haven't happened yet. The threat detection system cannot distinguish between a predator and a difficult relationship. It only knows potential danger, prepare, and for many people, especially those who grew up in homes where love felt unpredictable, where a parent's mood determined the emotional climate of the day, or where expressing fear or worry was met with dismissal or correction, this system was calibrated to an even higher sensitivity than average. The anxious brain is not random. It has a history. It learned in a specific environment at a specific age that staying alert was the safest way to exist. And that calibration does not automatically reset when the environment changes. You can move into a completely safe situation and your brain will still be running the old program, scanning, bracing, predicting the worst, because it has not yet received enough evidence that the new environment is genuinely different from the old one. This is where so many Christians find themselves in genuine confusion and quiet shame. They have prayed. They have memorized Philippians 4:6, be anxious for nothing. They have given it to God repeatedly and sincerely, and the anxious thoughts keep coming, and the conclusion they draw, the conclusion the church too often reinforces, is that this means something is wrong with their faith, that the persistent anxiety is evidence of spiritual failure, that they are not trusting enough, surrendered enough, believing enough. But this conclusion misunderstands both scripture and psychology. Philippians 4:6 is not a description of what happens when you have enough faith, as if sufficient belief chemically eliminates the negativity bias. The word translated as be anxious in Greek is merimnao. It means to divide the mind, to be pulled in two directions at once. Paul is not saying feel nothing. He is describing a practice. Bring the divided mind, the mind that has already gone to the worst case, back into the presence of God. That is not the absence of anxiety. That is the practiced response to it. And practice, by definition, is something you do repeatedly, not something that happens once because you finally believed hard enough. If this is naming something you've been living with for a long time without anyone connecting the dots, subscribe to this channel. Every week, I create content at the intersection of psychology and Christian faith. I don't want you to miss what's coming. So, what does science say about actually changing this pattern? Not just managing it, but genuinely rewiring it. Because this is where Romans 12:2 becomes not just theological, but neurological. The brain has a property called neuroplasticity, the ability to physically change its structure and function based on repeated experience. Neural pathways that are used frequently become stronger and faster. Neural pathways that are consistently bypassed become weaker over time. This means that the negativity bias, as real and as deeply trained as it is not your permanent condition. The brain that learned to expect the worst can, through sustained and intentional practice, learn to expect something different. Not through positive thinking, not through denial, but through the repeated, deliberate practice of redirecting attention in a specific way. Paul writes in Romans 12:2, "Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." The Greek word for transformed is metamorpho, the same root as metamorphosis, a structural change, not a surface adjustment. And the word for renewing, anakinosis, means a complete renovation from the inside. Paul is not describing willpower. He is describing neuroplasticity 17 centuries before neuroscience had a name for it. The mind can be genuinely remade. The patterns that we're trained in can be retrained out. Not instantly, not without effort, but really, structurally, biologically. What does this retraining actually look like in practice? It begins with what researchers call cognitive diffusion, the practice of observing a thought rather than fusing with it. The anxious brain treats every worst-case thought as a fact that requires immediate response. The retraining process teaches the brain to notice the thought. Name it. There is the anxiety response. There is the old pattern activated, and choose deliberately where to direct attention next. This pause is small, 2 or 3 seconds, but in that pause there is a choice that did not exist before. The thought is not the truth. The thought is the nervous system running the program it learned in a home that no longer exists. For the person of faith, that redirect has a specific direction, not just away from the anxious thought, but towards something, toward the actual present moment, toward the God who, according to Matthew 6, already knows what you need before you ask, who clothes the grass of the field and calls you worth far more than that. The practice of bringing an anxious thought into that presence repeatedly, imperfectly over time is not just spiritually healthy. Each time the redirect happens, the neural pathway associated with worst-case scanning is used slightly less. The pathway associated with grounded presence is used slightly more. Over months and years, the balance shifts. The history your brain learned gets a new chapter. This is slow work. It does not happen in a single prayer or a single conversation or a single moment of insight. But it is real work, and it is available to you. Not because your faith will make the old program disappear, but because the same God who designed your brain also designed its capacity to change. You were not given a brain condemned to anxiety. You were given a brain that can be renewed. And that renewal is not just a metaphor. It is a neurological reality, written into the same tissue that learned to brace, now learning, slowly and faithfully, to rest. If what we've talked about today is something you want to go deeper with, I created a structured 7-day journey to help you calm your mind and begin working through the patterns your nervous system has been running on. It's called the 7-Day Guided Journey to Calm Your Mind. The link is in the description below. It's practical, gentle, and built for exactly this kind of inner work. Take the next step at your own pace. Subscribe to this channel. Every week I create content at the intersection of psychology and Christian faith because your inner life matters and you deserve the language to understand it. You are not alone in this.